morning, everyone. So I thought today we could go over how I organize my seeds. I know everybody is, kind of looking for different ways, not everybody, but looking for different ways to organize their seeds. You kind of have to go by your area, when your last frost date is, whether it's something that can be planted directly outdoors, maybe something that can be, or that you need to start by seed in order to have a long enough grow season, things like that. But you also want to do it in a way that it's not so overwhelming for you, especially if you plant big gardens or a variety of things. So what I do for me is I have this bucket, and I have little tabs to kind of tell me the months and what they are. And then, so for example, what I do is I keep them in a little baggie, because if they're open and they spill, then obviously the baggie will catch them. But I'll put them in the baggie, and then on the baggie I write when they need to be planted to be able to have the best or the longest harvest. So these ones are hot peppers. It's a salsa blend, and they do really well in like heat. So if I want to have the plants longer, I need to start them indoors like around March 13th. So I'll write on the bag March 13th inside, and that just kind of gives me a rough estimate, of the time window according to our last frost date. Now, lettuces and stuff, you can actually plant outside directly into the ground when you're just, my rule of thumb is about, 3 to 4 weeks out of your last frost date. When your days are already hitting 50 degrees and your nights aren't really getting below freezing, and you can actually do something with the ground. You can also start lettuce in containers. So like what I'm going to do this year is I'm actually going to try to see if I can keep lettuce going, because in the winter we buy lettuce. We buy the lettuce mixes. So I save the containers, and this is how I start my lettuce every year. And then what's kind of cool is it already says lettuce on it, but I peel this off, and sometimes I'll just leave that. But I'll start them in here, and then I just save these containers for the following year. So those are really good to, to be able to reuse. So I just have, like I said, this one, says inside. I have some that will say, like this one, I can plant first weekend of April outside. And so that will, that tells me, I guess what, not next weekend, but the following, I can go ahead and plant those just outside directly into the ground. So it kind of spaces it out a little bit. But then I also write the date or the year on the corner of the bag. So like I have back here, I've got like these are my backup seeds. So like when I plant all these, I'll go through there, I'll pull out whatever that is, like these are hot peppers. So as soon as I'm done planting all of these, I will go ahead and pull my peppers, and I'll put them in there, and then I'll put the year that they expire, or that they expire. So like this isn't peppers, but like it'll say on the back, sell by 11/22/22. So these ones would even be good for next year. So I would basically put these in here, and I'll write 22, 2022 on the corner. I'll just cross that off, and then I just reuse the bag. Sometimes you can get really lucky and it'll wipe off, like that one's wiping off, and I just write it in there with a Sharpie. So those are like my backup seeds, and then I've already ordered my ones for the following year. And then last night we were at the store, and I actually found, I have been having a hard time for some weird reason finding more calendula seeds. Well, I actually found them, so I got a bunch of those. But this year I'm also, just because of like things that we have going on in our time frame, I'm actually going to be doing some starts that you know buy at the nursery, and then then of course also my seeds. Now what I do with my seeds, like I've already got these done. This is my first container of the hot peppers, and I'll do a couple more just to make sure I have really good germination. Because the way I see it, worst case scenario, let's say they all germinate. You get plants from every seed, so you have an abundance. You can do more canning, feed more to the animals, donate some, you know, give some to your neighbor, your family members. I would rather have too much than not enough. So I will be planting an awful lot. And then I take my Sharpie, and I use popsicle sticks. I get these in the craft section at the dollar store. And I'll just write hot peppers. And that is how I do that. And then what I do is, now this one's ready because I use moist soil to do it. So, and you know, you don't want to pack it in there. You want it really loose. But what I'll do now is I'll take it outside and set it outside. I have tables set up outside, and I'll put them outside during the day, and then I bring them in at night. I do have grow lights, but I don't have them set up. I don't really have a place at this house to set them up. Our old house, we had a room that we could do that in, but I don't really have that here, so at least not yet. So I don't have the grow lights. So I just take them outside during the day, water them really good. I have one of those pump sprayers. I water them really good, and then I'll bring them in at night because the house is warm. You know, don't want them to get cold, especially because this is a hot weather plant. And then we actually ordered 2 of the small like pop-up greenhouses because we don't quite have all the material that we need yet to do our window greenhouse. We've got quite a bit of it, but not enough to finish it. I don't know if we're going to be able to build that this year or if that's going to be a next year project, but we'll just kind of have to see how prices and availability and stuff like that go. So I did order 2 small greenhouses that I'm going to put in the back corner of the yard because it's pretty sunny there, but it does get some shade. And I can also tether them to the fence. We had one last year, and we had it out in the front field or side field, and the wind took it. So also we had our center garden that the chickens kind of ravaged, so we fenced that in, and we've even got a little gate to it. My chickens free range during the day, and so do my ducks, and then we put them up at night. Unfortunately, right now, poor little guys are stuck in their runs. They cannot come out unless I am outside, because that's one of the reasons I didn't get a video done this week. It's been, had a little bit of an issue with a dog, came onto the property, and this dog has come on the property before and just kind of like tormented them, but then it stopped for a while. Well, the dog came back, and this time actually did some damage. It killed one of our chickens and injured like 14 others. When I say injuries, not all of the injuries are directly from like the dog biting them. Some of them are from them running and wedging their little fat bodies into areas that they normally wouldn't fit. It took us about 2 hours to find everybody. I found one, literally she had wedged herself inside of a pallet, and she's not a small girl, like she's a buff Orpington, and so she's kind of on the fluffy side. She might be a little overweight, but she actually wedged her little butt inside of a pallet, and getting her out was not easy. I found one in like 2 fields over. So they were all over the place. So every one of them has some kind of injury, unfortunately, and then we did lose one. 2 of the ducks have injuries to their legs, to a leg, and then one has an injury to a wing because, well, ducks can't run and mine don't fly. So, but anyway, long story short, kind of went, squirrel. We did put up fencing in areas that we're going to have our gardens so that the ducks and the chickens can't get in there. and have their salad buffet, because I'm sure they would really like that. But our greenhouses should be here probably next week. We'll get those put up, and then all the plants that I'm taking outside every morning and bringing in at night, those will just get moved to the greenhouse and finish off their sprouting. But yeah, they do have, I've seen some people use, it's like a case and it's to organize photos. They use that to organize their seeds. You know, if you need to kind of remember when you're supposed to start it inside, when you're supposed to start it outside, you know, put a little note on it, or, you know, like I do the baggie, like this one, I know I'm supposed to start inside in order to have the longest growing season. Now, if you say go off the back of it, because those are basically just general information, it's not going to give you exact for your area. So, like, say I planted this one and I started them inside and they were doing really good, and, you know, transplanted them, you know, into the garden when they were ready, all that, and they were doing really, really good when it started to get cold, then I would come in and I would change this date to know that I need to start them maybe, say, like 2 weeks earlier inside. That way I would have a longer growing season. So you kind of have to just kind of watch your plants. I do have a notebook that I keep track of everything in, to kind of tell me when I need to, you know, do different things. So, and then if I'm running out of a certain seed, I, you know, make myself a list of what seeds I do need to get. I think I'm fine for quite a while. I'm going to do a huge batch this year of cucumbers. So I did get a really big bag of those, because I actually have a plan for those with our with a local food bank. So I am going to do a bunch of cucumbers. So anyway, that is how I organize my seeds. Like I said, you kind of got to see what works for you. Another thing that you can do to save seeds is, you know, your medication bottles, because it keeps them airtight. They're tinted. But when you do store your seeds from year to year, you want to make sure they are in a dark, cool, dry place. You don't want them sitting somewhere in the direct sun where it gets really hot or anything like that. You want to make sure it's cool. So these actually go into my tack room. I have a room in the back of my tack room that's kind of halfway underground. So they actually go in there, so they're not exposed to light or anything like that. So they store really well in there. So anyway, I hope this video was helpful, and good luck on your seed starting. You know, if you're new to seeds, do seeds and maybe get some starts. I actually got a raspberry bush this year, so because I had 2 of mine die, but the other ones are doing pretty good. So, you know, do some starts, do some seeds, and that way you at least know you have some. And if the seeds actually work and they take off for you, if you're, you know, learning how to do that, cool, you got extra. So anyway, I hope y'all have a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend. Stay busy, get lots of stuff done, and, you know, stay productive. And remember, every day is a new beginning. Y'all stay blessed.